Hello, everybody, and welcome to the lunar table for Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Highway to the Threemus Zone. We have got a really exciting race between 2, 3, and 1 competitors, Possumorpheus and Fleury14. My name is Rex Raoul, and I am being joined by Karant. Or Karant. Sorry, I asked beforehand, and I still say it wrong. Karant, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing quite well. Don't worry about it. I've heard every pronunciation of my name in the book, so I'm excited to be here. It's been a great day of free enterprise racing already, and I'm looking forward to what is likely to be a nice and spicy match tonight, because not only do we have two really good runners, we have, it looks like a world tour on the objectives map, and everything is gated, so we're going to have ourselves a nice little item hunt, and I think it's going to be lots of crazy routing, and it'll be great fun for everybody.
Definitely. No freebies tonight. And let's talk about our runners a little bit today. Both of these runners at 3 and 1 here in the table. Both of them got in through the direct advance through their group that we started on. So they've had a lot of time to practice these stable flags, very familiar with it. So far, Fleury14 has gotten wins over Moonblaze Wolf, Slippery, and Silverfire, only taking a loss to Dia. And Possumorpheus also defeated Moonblaze Wolf, but additional defeated Baka Shinobi, Xenocat, and took a loss to Slippery, whom Fleury defeated. So they're both 3 and 1, both really looking to get that fourth win as quickly as possible.
Yeah, as far as the table has gone, it looks to be 4 and 1 is really, I think, the point where you can be pretty assured that you're going to be in the round of 16. The 3-win plateau is sort of putting the cat among the pigeons a little bit as far as trying to get out of that. But I think if either of these runners end up winning tonight, I think they can be pretty comfortable that they are going to be assured a spot going forward.
Yeah, they're definitely playing for their safety, and the better situation that you get. You want to be, if possible, get in a position to choose your team in the next place. Otherwise, be a good pick in that. You just want to. This is still positioning going on in this, but that 4 wins is a real magical number here in the lunar table round, and both of our runners doing it. Now, we've got these objectives that you mentioned, everything gated, no freebies. The Sand Ruby is the closest thing to a freebie, depending on where that hunk of rock is located.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see from the runners is we're probably going to see a good bit of early party checks as far as, say, Mysidia, or maybe even we might see folks trying to go on Mount Hobbs and see who's up there. And then once they get themselves a decent party together, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of checks on the overworld, because the sooner that you can get some of those items and be able to at least have the key to your objective, I think the better these runners are going to feel about what they're going to be trying to do this evening. And it looks like we are underway.
Now, of course, the first thing that our runners are going to notice is they've got this Palom start. Looks like Riddy, a couple black magic users, a free character here a free boss here in the Baigan spot, and the Magma Key is the first item. So this is going to open up a whole lot more.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see from as far as, do the runners decide that they're going to stick to character checks and overworld checks in the beginning, or are they going to immediately turn in that Magma Key and start checking their freebies down in, say, the Fey March, or having a quick bedside chat with Yang before they decide to do anything else?
Whether or not they decide to go underground right away or a little bit later, I think in either case, it kind of allows them to not do as much looting in the overworld, because some of those underworld loot checks are just so much higher value and higher density. So we might see a little bit more foregoing of, like, maybe Damsey and maybe a Toria that we might see in some other situations that we can forego for, in example, maybe Dwarf Castle or the Fey March.
Yeah. Well, it looks like both of our runners have chosen to do the overworld checks first, and we already have ourselves a Tella in the Watery Pass. And Tella, of course, is it has been the character du jour in this tournament because not only of his ability to cast Exit in early looting, but of course also the weak spell and that D-Machine grind that has done the runners so well, particularly in these table stages.
Yeah, definitely the breakout character of this event, all things considered. That lack of fuchsia in the flag set makes it so that, really anyone who can cast all the spells is going to be useful, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And of course, that does involve a trip up Mount Ordeals and a battle against 3 bosses in that span. But for Tella and access to that grind, of course, you're going to want to do that. So I expect once the runners get their parties together, I think Ordeals is going to be a fairly early check.
I tend to agree with you. Now, the other reason why our runners might not be running underground right away is if they can route in their shopping in the underground, that would be a little bit better too. But you don't really know what you're going to shop for until you know what characters are available to you as well. So these overworld character checks become even more valuable. Well, I mean, they're going to be valuable no matter what. You need to know who's going to be in your party with this permajoin flag on.
Yeah. And it looks like we have ourselves a Cid over in Domcian. So speaking of characters that have served our runners well in the table seed, Cid has gotten a lot of play because of his high HP pool and his durability, especially in areas where you can't grind maybe quite so easily as you could in the group stages.
And the fact that he's got a bit of power for the early fights, because oftentimes at this tables flag, you don't want to commit to a party until you're ready to grind, but you need somebody who can help you get through the early fights. And Cid is a character who can really do a lot of work in the early parts of a seed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like we have Fleury going up Ordeals, possibly just for the character check. I would say right now, probably. And hello, second Tella. Goodbye, second Tella.
Yeah, Tella doesn't have a lot of usefulness as far as the second Tella goes. But I believe Possumorpheus checked the waterfall boss and saw the alt gauntlet there. Not interested in fighting that naturally.
I believe it was actually, I couldn't quite tell if it was in the alt gauntlet or Mylon and Friends, because I did see gas on screen. So it may just not have gotten a third Tella. Hello.
Oh, now I'm seeing everything. Like, I clearly missed what it was. If we see it again later, we'll be sure to mention it.
Yeah.
Possumorpheus heading over to Mystidia. We see Rosa and yet another Tella.
All right, so it looks like chat is letting us know that we are back, and we are indeed back to see Fleury raiding through Antlion, and I haven't established where Possum is yet. He's doing some menuing stuff.
Yeah, thanks for your patience. We're doing this race live, so, well, the runners are on a delay, but we're still doing it live. So things happen from time to time, but looks like both of our runners now in Antlion Cave, very close to each other.
Yeah. That's not a surprise, especially when you have a seed where you're going to be looking for a lot of key items. You're going to want to do some of these checks early. And we have ourselves a free fight in Antlion, which I have a feeling that Fleury and soon Possumorpheus is going to look at a little side-eyed, because you would rather see that battle later when it could possibly save you some trouble.
The one thing our runners don't have access to, it looks like, is a really good way to deal damage to all of these enemies at the same time. So they do have to kind of slug it out. It is worth noting both of our runners having the identical parties, Tella, Palom, Cid, and Rosa. These are characters that they know they want to keep. That last one is still a wild card, depending on what items and what characters are available. Decide that at a later date. That Rydia is really good for slingshotting to a high level in just one fight. We'll see if that's where we go, or if there's another character that piques any of our runners' interest.
Yeah. It'll be interesting as we have ourselves a twin harp as the pickup from the Antlion Cave. So we may have ourselves some very early music.
With a team set up like this, I doubt they'll want to go to Cave Magnus early. For one Sid, that's a pretty tough fight to deal with, and that spot has pretty notoriously high magic defense, so your Palums are going to be pretty useless. If you find a decent robe, maybe a heroine robe for Rosa, then you might be in better shape to take that.
Yeah, that's fair. It looks like our runners are pretty much on the same wavelength here because they are both an Aggart about to drop a magma key down a well. And so it looks like they're going to go for the freebie checks now just to see what awaits them in the underworld.
It might have been one of those check the Antlion on the off chance that the key item that you get out of there is the pan, because if it is, then now you win and you get to do all of Fabul in one go.
Right.
But don't want to waste the time for a longer check like Ordeals or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. And chat was pointing that out as well. So it looks like we were all, you guys were all on the same wavelength. So, yeah, unfortunately they were disappointed in that ambition, but all the same, now we get to see what the Fey March and all of our freebies have for us to see where, obviously, that takes our runners next.
And also the fact that we've got 4 out of the 5 team members that are going to be in the parties for the rest of the game. You've got some information as to what things you might be looking for in the gated shops as well. So now does seem to be a good time. You've built up a little bit of capital through the Antlion chest and the Dempsey and the Watery Passage. So you've got some reserves and cash. It's going to be interesting. It looks like Fleury is deciding to loot this cave, whereas Possumorpheus is going straight down.
Yeah. Of course, this cave is a pretty good one to loot because there's only one trapped chest in it. So once you figure out where that is, you can just grab everything else. But I can understand both strategies because if you're looking for those key items to try to open up the seed, then we know there's a key item check down here in the Fey March. So it really is just decided to your preference as far as if you want to try to find things or just go straight for it.
And again, you might get lucky with the sparse 60 treasure chests. You don't know which ones are going to be empty and which ones are going to be filled with goodies going at the start of it. So you might get lucky and have all of those in the trapped area be full of goodies, but they might be a bunch of empty chests, whereas the ones that are free at the bottom might be available to you. It's gamble either way.
Yeah, of course. And it looked like the treasures it seemed like a bit better down here in the Fey March than in the cave leading up to it, but we got ourselves an Earth Crystal as the free item check, so we may also have ourselves a game of Rate That Treasury in the relative near future.
We also see the Curse Ring for sale in the armor shop in the Fey March, a very useful item for this team. We do have vanilla agility on, so if we have Cecil in our party, all of our agility calculations are going to be based on him. But we haven't found him yet, or at least we haven't added him to our team. So at this point, we can pick and choose who we want as our agility anchor, and that Curse Ring with the minus 15 to agility can really help out sort out what you want to do as far as that goes.
Right. Yeah, we have seen Cecil on screen a little bit, but nobody. I think he was on Mount Hobbs, and nobody chose to take him. But yeah, the Curse Ring definitely makes the agility strats a lot easier to pull off, whether it is with Cecil or the party member of your choice.
Yeah, both Tella and Sid are decent options for anchors. Probably Tella. I think that's the conventional choice for an anchor. With this party configuration.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that I've seen used the most in the seats that I've been able to catch. So, and it makes sense because, because of Tella's lack of growth in any other area.
We see both of our runners heading over to the Sylph Cave, going to start the vanilla pan sequence. This means that when they go back up to the overworld and go to do the full defense, they can also hop on over to Yang's room and talk to his wife Sheila, who will give them a potential key item as well. So you get 2 checks in 1.
Yeah. And of course that was, when you were mentioning the pan check earlier, or at least hoping for the pan, that was obviously in pursuit of the dream of being able to just do all 3 Fabul checks in one. Sadly, that dream is not a thing tonight, but we will see the Fabul defense in a moment on Possum's side, and it looks like Fleury is going to check things out a little bit in Dwarf Castle before he heads back up.
Yeah, might be doing a little bit more shopping. It looks like it's actually going to be some recon. Want to know who this first boss is. It sees the Lunar Sparkle and immediately resets.
Yeah, that's understandable because any of the lunar sparkles are going to be nasty right now. Some more nasty than others. And hi, Volvalis.
And that's another nasty fight right there. For this time of the game, that early Volvalis in Fabul is quite difficult to take care of.
Yeah, especially since neither runner has a cane to be able to jump and dispel her whirlwind. So instead of going for the defense, we have Sheila checks instead.
Well, that's the Luca key. That's what we need for objective number 3, unlock the sealed cave. But it looks like we are seeing the treasury over on Fleury's side. So everybody, it's time to rate that treasury.
Rate that treasury!
All right, I did see silk webs, crystal armor, which it has been more sailbait than anything else. Full moon if we find an edge to back row.
Yeah, I think there was a ninja sword in there as well. Really good stuff for edge, but not a lot of great stuff for the characters that we have. See a lot of like 6 to 7 out of 10. I think it was pretty good. You at least have a lot of money. That tiara is probably the best thing out of it. The black shirt is pretty good too.
Yeah, you're right. It really was more of a treasury for your physical fighters than the mages that we have predominating the party at this point.
Possumorpheus going right after Fleury with the Luca key in hand because already done that Sheila check, but now it's going to raid that treasury at this point. This is just that early Earth Crystal is just doing wonders for the team. Oh, I missed there was an Elven Bow at the very beginning of it too. Oh, that is kind of a nice pickup. Maybe I bump it up to a 6 or 7. This is actually a pretty decent haul, I think.
Yeah, the Elven Bow can definitely be good in the hands of a Rosa early on, especially if there had been a heroine robe hiding in there. You can pull off some really great things if you have the right equipment in regards to bows and arrows early on in the game. It's something that, admittedly, I'm still sort of coming to grasp myself as a newer runner, but some of the things I've seen runners be able to do with it can take them pretty far.
Agreed. This game doesn't, especially in the vanilla game, it doesn't really do a good job of telling you what the weapons are really good for as far as weaknesses and bonuses and everything like that. So exploring that with the different kinds of arrows and what they do damage to, the different axes, the different knives, a lot of them hit like elemental or creature type weaknesses, and learning that is a big part of the game. And a lot of the runners who are in this level right now know that like the back of their hand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's another one of the things that I've been trying to learn as I've played through these seeds is the weaknesses that some of these types have and how some of these types look like certain types but aren't actually those types.
Yeah, big part there. Mad Ogres being mages is a big one that confuses some people. But Fleury got that bad news of the Valvalis in Fabul and takes that reset. I don't think he went and talked to Sheila, though.
I don't believe so, because I don't see the Luca key lit up. I don't remember him going up to that point. So, no, I think he was planning on saving it after the Fabul defense and kind of just maybe is a little bit on autopilot about, hey, it's time to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Hopefully, there'll be a reason for him to go back to Fabul, because he's going to need that, or it'll probably be very convenient for him to have that Luca key at some point.
Yeah.
But I believe both the runners in ordeals now.
Yeah, we've got our runners pretty much holding hands again.
Yeah, despite this seed being super wide open, the this is actually kind of forcing them to the same place based on the characters. With that Tella, you want to complete ordeals as quickly as possible. And the fact that you don't get a lot of experience so far because you didn't want to do Hobbs because who cares about Cecil. You didn't get a whole lot of experience out of that fight where in the Antlion Cave, so we've got very low levels. There's not a whole lot of options that we've got right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those where, of course, with Volvalis at the gates of Fabul, you definitely don't want to do that right now.
We see the Magus Sisters in the first spot here, and making use of that Elven Bow. Sid on Possumorpheus doing over 20,000, or 20,000, 2,000 to 2,800. There we go. That's a lot of damage, though.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw that Sid had gotten berserked, my first question was, wait a minute, how in the world did that happen? But I guess, I don't know what Tella has equipped exactly, but it got some definite work done, so definitely good going on Possum's side.
That would be the Power Staff that I believe was found in Damcian, either in Damcian or the Waterway. But if it hits, it has a chance of inflicting Berserk, and getting that on a character who's exploiting a weakness like the Elven Bow does on the Magus Sisters. Making use of what you got since you don't have access to cast the spell right now, using an item that mimics it can really help out.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes back, of course, to what we were just talking about a moment ago, is knowing those weaknesses and being able to exploit them like that. That's really heads up thinking from Possumorpheus. So it definitely got him through the Magus Sisters fight a lot quicker. And we see Fleury is still fighting them at the moment.
Exactly, yeah. Fleury is struggling a little bit, using Rosa as the archer instead of Sid. Her strength isn't as high as Sid's, and it doesn't look like Fleur is making use of that power staff like we saw over on Possum's side, and that seems to be the difference in this fight. But and it seems to be struggling, but now that Cindy's down in the middle, the rest of the fight is pretty easy to take care of.
Yeah, because once you get her out of the way, you don't have to worry about her resurrecting anybody else, and that is perhaps the biggest concern that you would see from the Magus Sisters at really any point.
The second boss in the back attack is those Dark Imps, and another fight that we consider to be one of the quote-unquote free fights is going to be off the table right away. So if you're looking to cheese some easy bosses on the moon or something like that, the odds of that are going down with more and more of these free fights being off the books.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's still a few in the pool, but the fact that we've seen a couple of them this early, yeah, the runners have to be thinking, oh dear, the moon is going to be painful whenever they get to that point, especially considering that the Ribbon Room is one of their objectives.
Possumorpheus has defeated the Dark Imps, and now we're going to get the key item check here, and let's see what we get. Well, that's an adamant, so that's putting the Forge objective a lot higher on the priority list right now.
Oh yeah. That's for a couple of reasons. For one, you get a nifty little sword out of it, which you can either put on a Cecil or give for some cash. And it also opens up Kokol's shop, which is the only place in this T Pro set where we can get, or I believe S Pro is the shops, where we can get the highest tier items on sale. So that's a big advantage on both ends, and we have half of that objective already taken care of up here.
Now Fleury in that Dark Imps fight, and Possumorpheus is through. We've got Paladin Cecil achieved, but no Cecil, but it'll do. The more important thing is Tella has learned all his spells.
Oh yes. And he can do some pretty serious work with those spells already, or with the spells, not to mention the fact that he's doing some work with the Power Staff already. So Possumorpheus is done with ordeals, and Fleury is pushing through that Dark Imps fight. He's getting some traction on it, so that's good to see. He's got Lit 2 on his Palom, so that's going to help take them down fairly quickly. Steve, go ahead.
This is an interesting play. Possumorpheus must not like where he's at as far as experience points. So taking a random encounter up here on ordeals to get a little bit of extra experience here. It's an interesting play, but it's one of those things where if you know where you're at and what you feel you need in order to achieve certain things, knowing where to take those extra fights is really smart.
Yeah. And it's a strategy that I have not seen yet on these streams, but in some of the other seeds, the table seeds that I've run just for practice, I've had to do that. It's, like you said, it's definitely something about knowing where to take these encounters, especially now that you have Tele fully online. It makes that much more expeditious.
And it looks like Possumorpheus prepared for it by finding some bombs that were available in his shop and is using that to take care of these encounters as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, those souls, though, are going to be the ones that are tough because they actually absorb fire elemental instead of take damage from it. So in this formation right now, they actually have to chew through the souls themselves. But as it's pointed out in some people in chat, imagine that what the goal here for Possumorpheus is for Palom to learn Virus, one of the more effective spells, non-elemental, just very useful all around.
Yeah. And of course we see Tele slinging it around right now, but that's because when Ordeals is finished, he suddenly gets everything that he could ever want. And I believe we saw there that Palom now has Virus for himself. So I think, yeah, that was the goal because Possum is now definitely done.
Fleury, meanwhile, has defeated the Antlands and has also completed the Mount Ordeals sequence, getting his Tele online. And now the question is, like, when do you return to Valvalus? Do you do Baron in next? We've got that music that's available to us, or do we go Dwarf Castle or Tower? There's a lot of choices. And when do you route in that unlocking of the sealed cave? And when you do that, do you go and take a peek at what that key item down there is as well? There's a lot of things that are available to our runners at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. And this is one of the great things about a seed like this, that you get to see different strategies being taken into account and different routing as we see Possum going ahead and unlocking that cave and that objective. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think this will be the first point where we really see divergence from the runners, and it'll be an interesting play to see where that divergence takes them and us.
It looks like Possumorpheus is going to at least peek and see what the item is. Oh, actually, it looks like what he's doing is going to try to set up a door grind, or at least a mini door grind. Wants to try to get this, get a bunch of experience from these trap door fights here. Setting up the goal is to see who the door is targeting with the Dimension 9 ability and have telecast wall before that goes off so that it can be reflected right on the door. And let's see if everything is timed out right here for Possum.
Yeah, this will definitely be interesting. I've done the door grinds in the past myself, but I've not been able to pull off what Possum is in the process of pulling off, which is, like you said, that wall. And that looks like that was executed perfectly, so the door is going to disrupt his own life, and we see ourselves a nice chunk of change, especially for this early on.
Yeah, enough to get Palom up to Quake, which is the other spell that's really useful for him to have. Virus and Quake are two big ones. Making use of that curse ring to get Tele's relative agility exactly where he needs it to be, using run buffering techniques in order to make sure that the timing is everything that he wants. And he's done in that cave. He doesn't want to peek the key item at this point.
Yeah, that was pretty much a clinic as far as how to put on the door strat there. And so definitely props to Possum for pulling that off. Meanwhile, we have Fleury attempting to take down Valvalus with a Tele that's online. I think this at least becomes a little easier, but you mentioned that the high magic defense earlier elsewhere, but Valvalus has a lot of, well, just evasion and defense, period. So it'll be interesting to see if Fleury is able to pull this off.
It kind of varies from location to location from Valvalus, but it looks like even that center position Sid is not doing a whole lot. Luckily, Rosa's aim command ensures 100% accuracy, so that's a way that you can always do reliable damage to Valvalus in the tornado form. So it looks like that's what Fleury is taking advantage of. What's really interesting that's different between these runners right now is we see Possum has taken a little time where stepping back from the objectives and everything like that. I got to power up my Palom, get him to where I want it to be so that we can deal with these mid-game bosses without too much problems. And now is ready to go to places, and we see Dwarf Castle right now. Meanwhile, Fleury is focused on these checks, and if it works out, this could save time in the long run, but it looks like at least this Valvelus fight is not going to be as easy as you might have hoped it to be.
Yeah. And, I mean, like you said, if it pays off, then it looks really good. If it doesn't pay off, then it doesn't. And that's just the nature of it. And it's something that I'm sure that either runner could, easily justify when asked. And looks like Fleury was successful in taking Valvelus down. Like you mentioned, the aim technique from Rosa was the key to making that work. So we'll see what this item is as Possum goes into the Dwarf Castle bosses.
Depending on what this key item is, this is huge. And the other nice thing is this is probably going to take Fleury back to Sheila 1 to get that Luca key and gets the tower key. So that could be a very useful item and could be pointing Fleury towards that tower, completing that tower to do both of those checks at the same time.
Yeah. If fading or if getting Fabul in one try is the ultimate dream, not having to double dip tower is sort of the secondary dream. So yeah, I think that will definitely help Fleury to try to deal with that. Meanwhile, Possum got dismissed, it looks like, by the Nope Rope, and is going to get things sorted out and probably give it a second try.
That's a bit of an unfortunate find for Possumorpheus there. He spent a lot of effort in leveling up Palom, but Ogopogo doesn't like it when you use magic on him and reacts in kind. So you're going to be relying a lot more on the physical attacks, and that's just something that we don't have as much of right now compared to magic with the virus and quakes.
Right, yeah. So we'll see if Possum is able to pull this off second time. Looks like Fleury is going to head into, I presume, do the Baron Inn and, well, see what that yields after doing a little bit of shopping, finding some Star Veils and Thor Rages, so those are both good finds.
Yeah, here he goes into the Baron Inn, so we're going to see another check here. There is another Palom here. That's an option for the 5th character. Probably won't take him at this point. Still going to be waiting until ready to do the grind for the slingshot option on the 4th character is my guess. But we see Ashura in the first spot. Whoever's in that first spot is generally going to be really easy. It's the second one that's going to be the bigger concern. And we've got the dolls here. If we've found any like Gaia drums or anything like that, that would be nice. Otherwise, you're probably going to be relying on a big spell from Tella to try to take him out.
Yeah, and I think this may work out pretty well because, like you said, Tella has virus. Well, if he can get away with casting it. But fortunately, the characters in the back row aren't taking very much damage from the dolls, so that at least allows for, well, Sid to do Blizzard and Blizzard to do work, and the dolls to, well, fall by the wayside.
That fight with the HP of that spot split up among all the dolls and the big doll itself makes it so that Blizzard is a lot more effective than it would be against most bosses in that spot, so that was good. Getting that pan is pretty big, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now, of course, you have the check from the Sylphs once you thwack Yang upside the head, and then the Sheila 2 check from his wife. So this is 2 key items that can be found relatively quickly, and if you're Fleury, you might consider, possibly, routing in those tower checks while you're on the way either there or back, because, of course, obviously, it's on the way there or back.
Fleury wasting no time heading back to Sylph Cave. We're going to get a potential key item from the Sylphs down here, and I imagine Fleury's going to run right back to Sheila 2. Might take a little bit of time to unlock that sealed cave, might not. We'll see about that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because, yeah, the sealed cave is right there as well, and hey, who knows? We may find Fleury doing the same sort of thing that Possum did a little bit earlier, taking a door grind to get some quick levels on Palom, and then perhaps be able to better wield that power effectively. Looks like Possum was successful in the second attempt, taking down Ogopogo.
see the pigtail as the reward. Probably not the key item that Fleury was looking for, especially since he can't trade it in right now. But the gear that you get from that isn't really the big thing. But it looks like we've got Edward the Bard is the character in Dwarf Castle, and a Vanilla Golbez in the second boss spot here. This is a kind of an easier spot for Golbez, I would say.
Yeah, and there also is a fortune in some way on Possum's side that Possum is down to 2 characters because, of course, Golbez summons the Sneck to try to eat characters alive. But if I'm not mistaken, if you have less than 3 characters, then said Sneck will go away with no dinner tonight.
Yeah, sometimes the snake just isn't that hungry, so or doesn't like what's being served. So, like Rosa, Sid, no, I don't like those. So they'll just go away.
I guess maybe Sid's too meaty? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how you justify not eating them if you're Shadow.
Fleury heading right back up to Sheila, and we're going to get the final check of this pan sequence here. And we get just a Dragoon helmet, but it's a pretty good piece of gear for Sid. But it looks like Fleury doesn't even want to take the time to walk out. We see the reset. And as you see on that save file, Fleury already up to 8 key items. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that is really rapid, actually. I'm sitting here having to make sure, kind of counting, peering at the tracker and counting myself, and yeah, sure enough, it seems to have happened very, very quickly. Almost, kind of right before our eyes, suddenly he's got all those items. So that makes, obviously, the later grind, if he can get up to 10 key items before they get the Darkness Crystal and start going into the D Machine grind, that's going to make that a lot faster.
Yeah, but between a little bit of grinding and this longer check that Possumorpheus has taken in Dwarf Castle, Fleury has just been knocking out checks left and right. So that's kind of been the difference between these two runners. But, if this Dwarf Castle strikes big with maybe that Darkness Crystal, then that could put Possumorpheus at a huge advantage as well. So it's still anybody's race at this time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so we get to find out in a moment who is in the Mist Cave for Fleury and what Luca has around her neck.
Fleury, meanwhile, doing some mist hunting, not able to find that D-Mist anywhere easy, so at least won't have to be keeping like this Mist Cave check in the back of his mind. But, oh man, that is a Sand Ruby.
And that is a second objective. I don't believe either of our runners have checked the character in Kaipo yet, have they?
I don't believe either of them went to Kaipo during their early routing of the waterway. And I think that's kind of where some runners decide to do it. But Possumorpheus is going to go there, going to complete that objective right away. And we're going to see if this is a character that he wants to have for his 5th. But it looks like Fleury is going to be the one to go to music. The hero of the people.
There you go. Fleury is going to satisfy our craving for good rockin' tunes today. So, DJ Spoony B, you better get ready to step up to the mic. It's about your turn.
We're almost to the point where we might have our crystal, but still not a way to Threemus, because we still haven't found the Darkness Crystal or the pass at this point. Possumorpheus saying no to the undoubtedly best character in the game, Yang.
Well, the good news is, with any of these characters that are said no to on these flags, you can still go back and get them at the Tower of Wishes in Mysidia. So, going ahead and rejecting Yang now, but when it comes time for the grind, then we'll see if the Punch Mage gets an audition. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
This routing by Fleury, when he's going to the Cave Magnus, is something that we see out of some top runners quite a bit. Doing it right after the pan check means that all of his characters are at 1 HP to try to knock his own characters out as quickly as possible during this first fight. Just saves a little bit of time. It's a little bit of minor optimization that Fleury taking advantage of here.
Yeah, that's definitely good planning on his part. And as we have Possum about to take on Valvalis again, we will be quiet because we have some music to play.
Enjoy DJ Spoonie B's rockin' tunes. So the boss in the Cave Magnus, one of the few bosses in that spot where it still is useful to use magic on. Odin with that super weak to lightning. We see both Palom and Tella able to take advantage of that. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus back in the Valvalis fight and still proving quite difficult to take down this tornado lady.
Yeah, absolutely. The music tonight, as chat pointed out, was from Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, so nice tune to hear. But unfortunately, yeah, Possum's still having trouble with Valvalis, but also using the aim command to try to get some reliable damage in, and has blink up on all his characters. So fortunately, Valvalis's potential to knock them out has substantially decreased.
Just a ninja shirt for Fleury. Definitely not what he was hoping there, but with the power of exit, able to keep those experience points. And now, since he's right in the neighborhood anyways, time to climb the Tower of Zot for another couple character checks, and more importantly, a key item check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely good routing based on proximity, and is likely why he staved off doing music until this point, just to try to make sure if it was available to get both of those in at the same time.
It was a bit of a long fight, but Possumorpheus able to take down Val, and now will be able to get the peace of mind of knowing that that's not there, and that's good, as well as that tower key.
Yeah, and likely gonna, I don't know, may go ahead and do tower, but we'll see, because obviously you've got both of those available now, and with Possum's Quake Kit online, I think Tower's a little more easily doable for his party than for Fleury's, certainly at the time that Fleury got that tower key.
Yeah, Baron Inn is still one of the checks that Possum has faded so far, but it looks like he's going back underground, and I imagine it is Tower. And yeah, that's where he's landing. Not a huge shocker. I mean, both of us kind of saw this, but still, we've got more divergence. The couple of decisions made at one point are taking these runners down vastly different routes at this point.
Yeah. Then, of course, as we mentioned before, that's part of the fun of all this.
Yeah.
Fleury finds Plague at the first Zot fight, and this is not exactly the funnest place ever to find the one-eyed Ariamon staring you down.
Yeah, there's a few strategies that you can use to make sure that you're going to be successful against Plague. If you've got your agility set up right, Berserk is going to be kind of your insta-win condition there, but not knowing what the agility setup is right now, going for the more traditional using life potions to resurrect a character that you've knocked out, so that at least one character doesn't have count on them, and Plague doesn't like it if even a single party member doesn't have count, we'll re-up the count and start everyone out at 10.
Yeah, that's definitely useful, especially if you don't have the party immediately available to take Plague down quickly in any given spot. You can sort of cheat the count that way. Another way that I've seen runners do, and unfortunately Fleury wasn't able to get it up on time, was to get a Star Veil or a wall on one of your characters before Plague gets that count up, and it'll reflect it back on Plague. And so the Plague will continue to reset the count because he doesn't want to watch himself die either.
Now, Possumorpheus has made it to the top of the tower, and we see it looks like it's going to be the Baron Guards up here. So another one of the free fights off the table relatively early in the seed. We do have a couple of ways that we can cheese them. We've got access to the mute spell from both Tella and Rosa to make their counterattacks less or non-effective. You also have access to lots of status effects. We've got Stone, we've got Size, we've got Toad. Lots of ways that you can deal with these guards at this point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It looks like Possum is going for the Toad strats on this one. Fleury was able to take down Plague, so good going for Fleury on that one. Definitely going to save and heal up and see what those characters and that second boss is at the end.
Now that these guards have been toted, they're basically harmless. They can only deal 1 hit point of damage when they attack, and they can't cast spells anymore. So now it's just berserk up and take these guards down.
Well,
We see Kane.
Yeah, that's
Vanilla Kane.
Vanilla Betrayer, ready to betray. It'll be interesting. I think Fleury's probably going to leave Kane on the sidelines for now because I've not seen any good spears for Kane in any of the looting that they've done so far. Also, Vanilla Rosa?
Yeah, got some vanilla characters up here in Zot. The second boss can't be vanilla, however, because we've already seen Valens.
Yeah. Well, so Dothis is foiled at least in the third part of this drama.
But Possumorpheus has found the Darkness Crystal, which will give him access both to Threemus at the end of the game, but also that vanilla ribbon room. So Possumorpheus has everything that he needs in order to complete this seed.
Oh boy. So I imagine probably not even going to check the super cannon room and tower. Probably just going to rush straight down, go to Mysidia to get that 5th party member, and we're going to see some D machines coming up very shortly, methinks.
That's the other thing. The Darkness Crystal enables the grind in the Giant of Babel, known as the D-Machine grind, enabled. It is possible to do since we've found a Tella. Both those things are required in order to do that grind effectively. Now, I imagine he might have peeked in there for the check had he already been at 9 key items, so that he could have gotten 10 for the grind. But in this case, he doesn't. He's only at 8, I believe. And so even if he found one, he'd have to hunt for another one before he gets it. So I don't blame him for not going down that route.
Right, yeah. So looks like he's going down to Tamra. I think he's the first of our 2 runners to go to Tamra. So hopefully we'll get ourselves a job dwarf check while he's here.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of incentive for him to go into the back room right now. It'll be awesome if he does. I just don't really see it here.
Yeah, that's understandable. But still, hey, we can hope for the people anyway.
Yeah. You know me, I love my job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, sadly, the job dwarf shall remain, would we call him Schrodinger's dwarf, I suppose?
He does have all occupations until you talk to him.
Yeah, there you go. Meanwhile,
Fleury,
Fleury is successful in taking down the bosses at Zot and is going to... Well, Rosa will now get exit, and we'll see what he gets from that.
There's the hook. So now the pink tail is tradable. I don't think that's going to be a very high priority. There's also another character check, a potentially good shop that are all available, but Yeah, it looks like foregoing that for more checks is what Fleury is going to do. It looks like Fleury's heading to the right place because he's going to the tower.
Yep. And as you mentioned, he already has, I believe that brings him up to 10. Let's see, I'm going to sit here and see if I can count things properly. Well, maybe 9, but he will get that 10th key item at the top. And so, even though he's going to be later entering the D Machine grind than Possumorpheus, having that 10th key item is going to speed it up substantially because he'll be getting double XP from everything he kills. So that might get them back to pretty much even Stevens, depending on how long this tower check takes for Fleury.
That's true. The grind should be a lot faster for him. However, the fact that he doesn't have the Sand Ruby, he hasn't completed Dwarf Castle yet, is going to be a big stick in the mud. Unless he gets lucky in this tower key. Oh, he's going to get a bonus check out of this with the D Mist being found here. But if either one of these checks yield the Legend Sword, then Fleury's going to be bailed out big time here.
Yeah, that's true. And thank you, and thank chat for pointing out that Fleury was down an objective. I was more looking in regards to just the sheer levels in the grind as far as being ready for future objectives.
Oh yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. The grind should go a lot faster for Fleury being at 10 key items versus the 8 or 9. I think it's 8 that Possumorpheus is at. So once you get to that 10 item, then your experience is doubled. And you see that base level Rydia is going to get another double on top of that for the slingshot being 5 levels below the party median. So looks like now going to set up the manipulation to get the grind fight that Possumorpheus wants, and just doing all that prep right now.
Yeah. So it's getting toward crunch time now. This is really where the races in this table seed have gotten very exciting, is when we start getting to the point where our runners are getting all the key items they need, and they're getting grinds underway. And now it's a case of essentially, can you count it up right when you're setting up the D Machine grind? Can you execute it well? And these table runners have, generally speaking, been executing the D Machine grinds very well indeed. And so we'll see how the chips roll, or where the chips lay and how the dice roll. I'm mixing my metaphors tonight.
And while we're doing this setup here and seeing some checks that we've seen in the past, I want to take a quick moment to shout out the restream team that we have today. Groundflyer doing the restreaming itself. And we've got Gundam Pilot Spaz on the tracking. And without them, we don't have a show. So big shout outs to them for all the work that they're doing behind the scenes tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making a broadcast like this tick involves several people doing things that, especially with the restreaming, I was just chatting with Groundflyer earlier. I can't begin to do that sort of stuff. So definitely props to them. They've been doing a fantastic job keeping up with everything today. And also, of course, we'll also mention this at the end, make sure to follow our runners as well, because Possum and Fleury are both putting on a fantastic show tonight. And so if you fancy some great free enterprise content, then definitely give them a follow and make sure to let them know how much you appreciate what they've been doing for us tonight.
Looks like Fleury also utilizing that code strategy to get through these guards easily. And Possumorpheus is entering the giant right now. Probably only going to see one battle in here. And if the D-Machine manipulation has been done properly, the fight should be a Searcher and 2 Beamers.
Yep, and we will see we'll see that in just a moment, because it will either be in the passage, which is where the safe spot is, or in the elements room. It could be either of those depending on how the numbers roll on this manipulation. So we'll find out where exactly that goes in just a second, because if it's the passage, then Possum's going to take those encounters off, or put those encounters on immediately. And it looks like it is going to be in the elements room, because he did not flip that switch immediately.
That's a little bit unlucky RNG. It's a little bit more extra time working. But at this point, you're not going to do the manipulation again. That takes longer than this extra time here. So makes sense going through with this. Meanwhile, Fleury has got the Darkness Crystal, and when he exits the Tower of Battle here is when we're going to see what he gets for completing that tower room, or tower key room, the super cannon room, as well. So we're going to get that, and I imagine we're going to go to Mist right away. I hope Fleury does that. We want to see, for Fleury's sake, we want to see either the Legend Sword either here or in Mist.
Right, yeah. So it's as Possum is getting that battle set up and ready to get the D machines. It's going to be some exciting viewing for the next probably couple of minutes or so on Fleury's side to see if he gets bailed out for doing this tower objective and finding D-Mist.
Question to check, Gate Coop, where was Sand Ruby? Sand Ruby was at Dwarf Castle, which is a place that Fleury has not gone to yet. Just gets a cat claw for completing the super cannon room. We'll see if we do get that Mist check right away, and it looks like he is flying north, so that's good. And we'll see if he gets bailed out by finding a Legend Sword here, because otherwise I think this is like Possumorpheus is in the driver's seat without a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a race.
Oh, Fleury is bailed out with the D-Mist check, and oh boy. All right, good. This is what we like to see here on Free Enterprise.
This is awesome. Possumorpheus has started to grind early, but remember what we talked about just a little bit ago. Fleury is going to have that 10 key item, so his grind is going to be shorter, all things considered. He still needs to pull up that final character. I imagine it'll be Rydia, just like Possumorpheus did, but it could be Palom. Either one of those choices, I think, are reasonable. Rydia is kind of the default choice in a lot of these cases for that final position. Needs to set up the manipulation and then go up there, but we might be getting towards that vanilla ribbon room around the same time, depending on how everything goes.
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah, this was the best thing that could have happened on Fleury's end, and it very much makes this, oh man, this is going to be exciting viewing. I can't wait.
The other thing is, we saw Possumorpheus make that trip to Tomra. The reason for that was he needed some ethers, and there were ether 2s for sale there. I don't know what Fleury's situation is like as far as MP restorative, because remember, one of the limitations on Tella is his maximum MP is only 90, and so that weak spell that you're going to want to cast many times throughout the course of this fight costs 25 mana. So you're going to have to do that over and over again. You're going to need a way to restore that MP. And so hopefully Fleury has found ethers at this point. Otherwise, it's going to have to look for them.
I seem to remember somebody buying ether 1s earlier. I don't know if it was Possum or Fleury, but I did see those purchased. And of course, like you mentioned, you did see the ether 2s over in Tomra. I did also see that Fleury had a Soma drop to give Tella, so he does get that extra Tella weak cast in at least the same sequence of 100 MP. So that was a nice find and a good thing to discover as well.
Another interesting thing that's going to be available to Fleury is the Copal Shop, which can sometimes have even spicier items. The chance of there being sirens available in the seed is limited only to that Copal Shop. If he finds that, that might be an even spicier way of doing this grind.
Yeah, it's there are definitely possibilities open, and that's what makes this so much fun. I know I'm sitting here almost sounding like a broken record, but it's like I said, the divergence of strategies, how these runners decide to route and chart things out is really exciting, and it's great to see side by side.
Looks like there is a little bit of divergence. Fleury opted for Palom rather than Rydia. The difference of the two is mostly Palom's HP growth is a little bit better than Rydia's, but Rydia has, I believe, learns Nuke before she learns Meteor, and Palom is the other way around.
Well, I was going to say, either way on that front, I don't think you'd be too concerned about the switching of those spells, because a good, well-executed D-Machine grind is going to take care of that in a hurry.
It looks like Fleury not going to check the Coco shop before doing the manipulation, so not going to be hoping up for those sirens after all.
Yeah. I mean, considering how these table flags have been so far, I gotta understand that. And you have all the tools necessary right now, assuming he does have ethers, to be able to do the D machine grind and go ahead and get it underway. You don't know that sirens are going to be in the Coco shop. And if you go there and they're not there, then you've lost probably another 3 minutes checking. I mean, of course, you could find other good stuff, but you've lost.
You say that, but Fleury has to go there at some point to complete objective number 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think that's kind of the thing, because we don't have the pass. No matter what, Fleury is going to have to go to the moon and probably walk from that ribbon room to the Threemus fight. I just hope that after he sets up the manipulation, he goes down to the forge, because otherwise you have to go from the moon all the way back down to the underworld and then all the way back up to the moon afterwards. And that's a walk that you don't want to take if you don't have to.
Right. And it is worth noting, as a little bit of a side note, that once the grind is set up with the encounters and everything, you can still fly around and go to towns and do various things, and it's not going to mess up the count unless you reset or somehow find another encounter. But it looks like Fleury is choosing to go ahead and go straight into the giant.
This routing of going to the giant and doing the grind before doing the forging, this is something that could end up biting Fleury. He still has a window of going to do the forge before going to the moon to complete the ribbon room, but I think he would have gotten more out of it if he did it before the grind. It's a close call, but I'm a little bit nervous for him here, but he should set up a very nice grind here in either case.
Yeah. And it does seem like chat is very much in agreement with your sentiments, because we're seeing it in virtually everybody is saying essentially the same thing, that the forge should have come before going into the giant. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, because we will see that forge shop, presumably, and well, we'll find out, I suppose, but not quite yet.
The X factor is still that boss that's in the final the ribbon room spot. Once we grind, there are certain bosses that could still be nasty there, despite our high levels. So that's another thing that could complicate this run still, because that is an end game boss.
Right. Yeah. That can absolutely make the difference, or perhaps even things on Fleury's side, depending on how it all goes. Of course, that is a little bit in the future. Now we're focused on getting those D machines dead, at least in Fleury's perspective. He's not quite there just yet, but he's going to get there pretty soon.
Now we see both of our runners in this grind fight. We are getting close to this one now.
Yeah,
Possumorpheus just finished.
Yeah. So let's see if we got all the spells that we're looking for on our mages. We've got it's winding up there, and we do have Nuke on the screen, so it looks like Possum has gotten precisely what he wanted, and I expect is probably going to race straight to the moon and straight to the ribbon room to get that fourth and final objective taken care of.
Yeah, I got Nuke on both of the black mages, got White on Rosa, so those are the spells that you're really looking for there, and now going to be set to get out of the giant and back to the moon next. But unfortunately, I think this warp is going to take him back. Oh, I don't know why warp works for other people. I always seem to be going the wrong way. I warp in the giant. That's true. I think it's if you walk into the second room, then it takes you back. I just don't like it. I just walk because I always get it wrong.
Well, yeah, that's one of those little things, I guess, that takes some practice, because I found myself having the same problem, getting turned around that way. But I don't know. It's again, one of those maybe smaller elements of how well these runners run these, how much they practiced, and how much they've gotten to such a point that they can basically do this sort of thing in their sleep. That's why they're in the tables, and well, the rest of us are watching them, I guess. Or at least the rest of us who aren't table entrants themselves.
Possumorpheus now on the right outside of the Lunar Palace, and we're going to see this character check that neither of our runners will be able to add because we do have a full party now.
Right. Oh, hi, Porum. Bye, Porum.
And so we're going to probably get a safety save down at the bottom, the final save point of the game, and then we're going to see who this boss is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, of course, as you were mentioning earlier throughout the broadcast, we've seen a lot of the free bosses, and we know where one of the other free bosses is because we do know that, I believe, the King and Queen of Eblan are in Baron Castle, so they're out of the pool as well. So there's not a lot of freebies left for our runners to be hoping and praying for down here in the Ribbon Room.
Right. But we do have a lot of levels, so that should help as well.
Yeah. Power overwhelming can do amazing things, but there's still some folks that, or some monsters that you don't want to see opposite you when you try to execute said power overwhelming.
Without a doubt there. I think at this point, I think it's safe to say that Possumorpheus is in the lead, but that's not to say that Fleury can't catch up. We still have, as I said, that X Factor is the boss, plus Threemus, depending on, setups and everything like that. Threemus has been known to take out a runner or two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's definitely still a race to be had, even though Possum is making that final jaunt right now toward the Ribbon Room, and then once completing that and getting the crystal down to Z. But yeah, the Threemus has been an equalizing factor in some of these races. Like you said, the boss in the Ribbon Room could be all sorts of horrible, and chat could get their wildest, delirious dreams of chaos and mayhem. So, I don't know. It's yet to be determined. We will see where the action goes momentarily, because it looks like Possum is done moving around items to get things ready for, presumably, the Z fight in a minute.
There is that save there from Possumorpheus, and now we're going to get a peek at that boss.
And it's a freebie!
Oh. I think the lead for Possumorpheus just increased now.
Yeah.
This X Factor is a 0.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the lead just widened substantially, I agree. Because if you're not familiar with the Water Hag takes 3 hits and then goes down like a chump, so basically womp womp.
So we'll see if Possumorpheus bothers to go back and take the save here. There's a chance that he doesn't,
Yeah. It's certainly possible, and looks like Water Hag was obliging what Possum wanted to do and helping Possum take down Tella in the middle slot there. Just to avoid getting more experience and messing with the agility, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a little bit, but the more important thing is we've got that crystal or a cursed ring, so Tella's not going to be much of an issue anyways. But there we go. Objective number 4 completed for Possumorpheus. Gets that crystal officially in go mode. Can walk right to Threemus, and no save, going right to the boss.
Doesn't even bother checking the items 3 feet away. It's just like, okay, I don't need it. I'm done. Let's go.
Yeah, it's just when you know that you've got what you need in order to complete the seed, anything else is just extra time. So this is just taking speed to the advantage. Meanwhile, Fleury has completed his grind, but has to go all the way, still has to forge the Excalibur to complete objective number 1 and then fight that Water Hag. So I think it would take a wipe from Possumorpheus at this point for Fleury to be able to crawl back into this. if there was a really tough boss in that spot, that could have given Fleury an opportunity as well. But so far, the end of this seed has been all Possumorpheus.
Yeah, agreed. I think it would take at least a wipe to even the difference. It is worth noting that Fleury's slingshot was, well, deliriously successful because I noticed level 64 on that second Palom.
It's a pretty high level number.
Yeah, not going to have to worry about so much survivability in that case.
But now it's time for us to ask, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Yep, we see the flags flying, the question has been asked, and we will have our resolution shortly. There are a lot of fun sprites that Threemus can turn into, courtesy of our wonderful developer and all the folks that have helped out in the community, particularly Scala Kitty. We have over 450 sprites, and some of them are pretty standard, some of them are awfully crazy. It'll be fun to see which one we get tonight.
Luckily, Fleury took a peek at his objective screen, saw that he hadn't completed objective number 1, and took a detour down here. So not going to do the double walk, but still, this is more time to go through there. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't bother checking the shop at this point, much like Possum didn't check those chests. And if you're a Final Fantasy VIII fan, we have Threemus.
Yep. He wants to steal the credit on the mission Adalit, and now he wants to steal the credit tonight.
No sirens were available. There are ribbons and strike rings, though. Some decent stuff in there.
Yeah, so, yeah, and of course that's the appeal of the Cokel shop. It's got good stuff for sale, but unfortunately, it looks like Fleury wasn't too terribly interested.
So the strategy that Possumorpheus is going to be using on this battle here is going to be what we call reflect strategies, which is going to be using a silk web, or excuse me, using a star veil on one of the characters to put up a wall and then reflecting nukes and whites off that wall. Whenever you cast a spell that gets reflected, it doesn't have the enemy do any counterattacks for it. The Threemus has a nasty nuke counter to most of these spells, and you don't want to deal with that. Plus, the way that the developers got around like hit point totals is to kind of do a counterattack which refills his HP, and that follows the same rules that if a reflected spell does it, that counterattack doesn't happen. So you get to only do basically half the damage to Threemus to beat him this way. So it's a good strategy when you've got high-level mages.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be one of the reasons why Possumorpheus moved his battle speed down to 3 getting ready for this fight, because it makes those reflect strats a lot easier to do, and you don't have to worry so much about Threemus being super speedy.
Yeah, getting your inputs in on is ridiculously tough. I only do that if I'm going with a very different strategy, and even then, I almost always go with battle speed 3. But that's me. This fight so far has been going well. We've got so much HP on Sid and even Rosa that the next Big Bang, which is going to be a full-powered one, shouldn't be too much of a deal. If we need to recover, we can, but ideally these spells will do enough damage before that second Big Bang.
Yeah, this, for reflect strats fights, this has gone exceedingly well, and we see the flash, and Possumorpheus is victorious.
Yeah, that's an official race spot time of 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 5 seconds. Possumorpheus moving up to 4-1 in the lunar table. Got to be feeling really good about that win right about now. And we're going to see if he wants to join us for an interview.
Yeah, so GG Possumorpheus, that reflect strat Z fight was executed to a T.
And I believe we are now joined by Possumorpheus. GG's and congratulations on the big win tonight.
Thank you. Always a tough matchup against Fleury. probably one of the folks I have the worst record against in pickups and acings and things like that. So real excited to get this one. So I appreciate y'all, giving me the GGs there. It's heck of a way to continue on through the tournament. I feel blessed so far.
Well, you did a couple of things in this run that I thought were really interesting and really kind of heads up technical plays. For example, taking those couple of random encounters on Mount Ordeals to get Palom up to Virus, and then doubling down on that and taking that one wall or one trapdoor fight and executing it perfectly to get up to Quake. Is that something that you've always known as something that you wanted to be doing? Just like walk us through that whole thing.
Yeah, I like to get early levels. I know that my knowledge base is really good for this game. My technical execution still needs work. No one's perfect. So I try to get away with just getting extra levels early. The encounters on Ordeals were actually a mistake in hindsight. I realized after I got Virus, what am I doing? I have the Luca key, I can go do doors. So that was honestly a mistake. It might have looked like a good idea, but I promise you in hindsight, and even in the moment, I was like, I'm an idiot. That was silly. I just wasted a bunch of time against someone as good as Fleury. I can't be doing that.
Fair enough.
But when I have a big source of XP available like that, and doors giving 30 to 35K, that's enough for Quake and Blink, and then you can go do some checks you might not otherwise consider. And had I not done that, I never would have considered Dwarf, and sure, Ogopogo would have chewed me up and spit me out. So, I figured I needed to get my revenge on Dwarf Castle for some prior races, and it paid off in spades tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if you go back and watch the VOD of this, because Fleury basically routed it completely different and never did Dwarf Castle, but found the Legend Sword behind D-Mist, which was behind the Super Cannon. So just a different way of getting to the objectives, and he's just about to enter the Z fight right now as well. Well, on the 15-minute delay. I don't know how much you've talked with Fleury after the race. So
we talked a little bit about it, kind of compared some routing. But yeah, I honestly did think, should I stop at the tower key on the one-off chance that it's Forge? And between the cutscenes, and the fact that I have 2 nukers, a white caster, the entire party I want, the cutscenes might be longer than most fights at the Ribbon Room, as crazy as that sounds. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to dip out of this and roll with it. I don't think I need to do this. I'm just going to grind and go.
And really got paid off by finding that water hag in the Ribbon Room there. A boss that you must have been like, okay, well, and we even noted you didn't even save after that fight.
I don't think I was going to save after any fight. Again, I had the exact setup I need for Zeromus. Reflect parties are my bread and butter on this flag set. It fits really well with my play style. So there was pretty much nothing there. All Gauntlet, Wyvern, anything, I would have just, I think it's Swag Walk is what everyone calls it. Would have just gone straight to Zeromus anyway.
Well, this win puts you to 4-1, and 4 seems to be what most people are saying is the magic number for advancement. What are you feeling right now at this stage of the table brackets?
I think the numbers were crunched that there was, out of 1 million simulations that were done, 287 that had you not guaranteed at 4 and 2. So I'm just hoping one of those 287 doesn't come true. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's fair. Let me also add my GGs. And you mentioned that you still needed to work on technical stuff. Being a newer runner myself, I admittedly, maybe except what you were mentioning about those Ordeals fights, I think that might be the only thing, at least from my perspective, that maybe went a little awry on your technical execution, because it looked like everything else went flawlessly. So definitely my compliments on that.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'm probably my biggest critic, and I think that's actually a good way to be in life, not just in free enterprise. So, take a look at what you do and, try to find places you can improve no matter how good you are.
Yeah, well, definitely. I very much the same way, so I understand completely. So I believe your final race, if I was looking, or your final competition, if I was looking at the notes correctly, is against Zyrak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to change anything leading up to that, or just stick with your guns going into this last match?
I'm going to play my game and hope that my game is good enough. I don't really like super metagaming. Some tendencies are great to find and all, but if you get out of your own comfort zone and you get away from what you're good at, you're very unlikely to perform well. So I'm going to stick to my guns, and if I lose playing my game, so be it.
Yeah.
If that's the case, GG to Zyrak, well deserved. So we'll see what happens in that race. By no means sleeping on Zyrak. They, like everyone else in this tournament, are fantastic runners. Top 32 is loaded, and top 16 is, if I make it there, going to be even more difficult.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Sticking to your guns definitely worked out for you tonight. So, GG's, thank you for entertaining us tonight. You did really well, and we see you have the music up on your end, which, interestingly, Fleury had showed us a little bit before, but definitely we appreciate another turn at the music. So, GG, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. And Firebird from Mystic Quest, best song, and I will fight over that. But I see the flash on the screen from Fleury, so GG to Fleury. Again, awesome runner and awesome race. And thank you, Karen and Rex, for doing comms, Ground for rolling this one, and thank you, GPS, for doing the tracking. Thanks, everyone behind the scenes. Again, GG to Fleury, and everyone have a blessed evening.
Likewise.
And that was the winner of today's race, Possumorpheus. Make sure to give him a follow if you haven't done it already. Just a pleasure to watch it. I believe we are now also joined by Fleury. Fleury, tough loss tonight.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That was kind of one of those seeds where you have like 4 options and a team that's okay to kind of do any of them.
Yeah.
And I just picked the wrong 2. It happens.
Without a doubt, it could have gone the other way, but it was like when you went to Mist and found that Legend Sword, it was like, oh, we've actually got a chance here, because the dynamics were such that you were at the 10 key item threshold, but Possumorpheus had started the grind, but you had to fly all the way back to get the forge at some point as well. So there was just a number of factors that kind of contributed to it, but it was I think it was closer than the clock says, especially because that boss in the ribbon room ended up being Waterhag.
Yeah, almost I should have done the forge beforehand, but that's still time that comes off the clock no matter what.
Right.
But, almost forgetting to forge in 2020. Who does that? I almost did. But yeah, and honestly, that's a lot closer than it probably could have been, because when I scouted the dwarf boss, I saw Moon Boss. I'm like, all right, well, I know what I've seen so far. I'm not thrilled about it, but if I have Quake, maybe it's not too bad. And then when I did Zot, I saw Golbez as the second one. I'm like, you know what? We can do that after Tower. I was, even if that doesn't have Legend Sword, realistically, I think after getting that Darkness Crystal, I probably start clearing out moon spots.
Yeah, so, that was kind of our guess as well.
So it's, Dwarf Castle giveth and it taketh away. Just gotta pick the right spots, and against a player of Possum's caliber, you can't give away 10 minutes worth of checks, or you lose by 10 minutes. So I mean, if you do minus Zop minus Harp, just strict those times, we're within 30 seconds of each other. So that kind of shows how even of a matchup this actually is. So I don't feel too bad about anything else I did. Going back to Val might have been unnecessary, but I kind of didn't want to leave that on the table. And I think I might have gone 1 over on the D machine, but I mean, realistically, the difference between like a 5x2 and a 6x2 when you're actually in the D machine is what, 30 seconds if you have a good rhythm going, and I had a decent one going. So I think my D machine grind was right around 10 minutes, which is usually what I shoot for anyway. And as long as I'm not doing 12x2, I'm fine with taking that time.
Well, you've got one match left here in the Lunar Table stage. You've got Gaming with a Wraith as your final match. So what are your thoughts of what this stage of the event has been like, and is there any preparation that you need to make before this final race?
I mean, most of the preparation has already kind of been done. Run like 300 seeds of practice.
You've had a lot of time to practice.
Yeah, at this point, it's just kind of stay warm. Wraith is really good and is going to have a lot of matches like consecutively under his belt by the time we get to that point. So it's not like I'm gonna be able to get away with going against someone who might be rusty or out of practice. Wraith will know what's up. So on the other hand, it's just a race. If I win, great, I'm probably in. If I lose, oh well, I might be in a play-in. We'll see what happens. It's all just another race, right? And I've done quite a few of them, and sure, I'd like to win, but if I don't, GG's to the other person.
Well, did you have any final thoughts tonight?
No, just well done to Possum, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do the tracking, restreaming, and commentating. And yeah, we'll look forward to the next race.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, Fleury. GG, and thank you very much as well from me.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was our second place finisher tonight, Fleury14. Make sure to give both of our runners a big follow for this great race that was really exciting towards the end here, and that's always what we look for. Once again, want to give big shout outs to our restreamer tonight, Ground Flyer, our tracker, Gundam Pilot Spaz, and my co-commentator, let me see if I can get it right this time, Karant.
Yeah, you got it.
Wonderful. I'm learning, and that's all I can do. Right now, go ahead and stick around. We are going to send you on over to Let's Racing Time, who's playing some free Enterprise, and also want to make sure that you go ahead and join us over on twitch.tv/randomania for tonight's later race with Invenerable versus Judge and Phineas. That's going to be a real hype race and should be starting probably a little bit after the top of the hour. So lots more free Enterprise here, and hope you all have a good night now.